So Captain America Brave New World has been out for about a week, and I've been thinking ever since I saw it, how could I fix this movie? Because honestly, it's not a terrible movie, it's not one of the worst MCU, but it does have a lot of problems that could be fixed with some simple retweaks for the movie and a few rewrites to the script that would really help the movie flow a lot better, get rid of some of that extra fluff, and then make the plot a little bit more coherent and maybe focus on more Captain America while also still having those Hulk elements in there and making the story make a lot more sense. Because I will say, there's definitely a handful of things when it comes to the Red Hulk marketing that completely tarnished the reveal. When the Serpent Society being a little lackluster when it came to the movie, the lack of the Hulk while having a bunch of Hulk movies, focusing a little bit too much on the adamantium plot. So what we're going to be doing in this video is just talking about the movie points that I think could have been reworked and fixed that would have helped the movie a lot and helped Sam Wilson's Captain America. So step one out of this plan would be to change the whole plot revolving around the world government going after Celestia Island, the giant celestial Tiamat sticking out of the ocean after the movie Eternals. Now, I do think that it was great to have that in there to finally give us the first introduction about what's going on with that giant island, what this world wants to do with it, and, introducing adamantium into the MCU, which we have yet to see, because that is a big thing that comes to Weapon X and Wolverine and all the different characters that have adamantium grafted to their bodies. Now, I thought this was like a great way to bring in that stuff because, at least we have it here now. Honestly, they didn't probably have to use Eternals. They could have had adamantium already in the MCU. We just hadn't heard about it yet, where programs like Weapon X already had their hands on it. But I think focusing too much on this possible world war that was going to be built up by this war to get the adamantium was a mistake. Don't get me wrong. The fight scenes that they did around that island were amazing. That was probably one of my favorite parts of the movie was them doing that flight scene. However, I felt like as they were traveling around, kind of just jumping at instant speed to across the world to go deal with it in Japan and then go over to the island, it felt a little out of place and all over the place at the same time, where I'm like, okay, if we didn't have this plot here, it probably would have felt a little more coherent as we're focusing on Thunderbolt Ross, Sam Wilson, and the plot to take him out from the leader. And you would easily change this by having it so that the world has actually just sanctioned off the island, where instead there have been criminals who've been sneaking on and stealing adamantium and selling it on the black market. So that at the start of the film, when we have Sam Wilson going after the Serpent Society, that could be them. Same plot where the leader is trying to get the adamantium to, make it look like Ross is the bad guy. Instead of doing that, it looks like the leader is getting it for Ross so that he can bring it to Weapon X. Because there's someone in the government that's working with the leader other than Ross. They're playing him and making him look like the bad guy, the fall guy, and all of that. And the Serpent Society were the ones that snuggled it off the island to sell. So keep the whole plot of them trying to stop it. And instead, we just don't need to dive deep into Ross going across the world to try to figure out with Japan the peace treaties and who would get adamantium. Cut all that out. Push that plot away, but instead focus on it inside the United States. As Ross talks to the world about the adamantium, we can still have that plot point in there, Isaiah Bradley being controlled and trying to take him out, and the event could play out the same way. However, instead, the Serpent Society plays a bigger role where they're actually helping this plot. Because we saw Copperhead and Sidewinder at the start, but then they could have added Cobra and Diamondback in there because we never saw them in the film and they were originally shot for it but then cut out completely. And this would make a lot of sense because in the comics for Sam's first Captain America run, he did go against Serpent Society. However, in that comic storyline, they were called the Serpent Solutions, which were being led by Viper. So we could have had Viper included in this as well. Have all these characters from the Serpent Society going after them. Put a little bit more comic booky stuff in their looks rather than just wearing bulletproof vests and tactical armor. Like add something to make it feel like the Serpent Society from the comics, who are Captain America villains. And that makes a lot of sense to make them one of the main focuses on the movie because they're a Captain America villain and not a Hulk villain. So you could have them more prominently there working with the leader to try to take out Ross. Have them there to be that second bad guy, a little bit more prominent in the film rather than dealing with the potential world war that's going on. The Serpent Society is working with the leader and they're trying to help the leader, trying to turn Ross into the Red Hulk to still ruin his reputation just like how the leader wanted to, but the Serpent Society is like a piece in that puzzle to help push that plan go forward. And this just makes it so the movie doesn't have to focus on this world affair about almost starting a world war over the Eternals giant celestial. Instead, we can just push that plot line to the sideline. And I think that introducing it, telling us about the adamantium, and showing that this actually has real world consequences is great. I just don't think we needed to focus on that because all we really ever wanted was a mention of that's how it's affecting the world, and that's good enough. And if we really wanted to have it focus on that, boom, that's Eternals 2 or something along those lines. I don't think it had to be Captain America. I think I could say this a bunch of times, is that I don't hate the fact that we addressed it. I like that we did that. I think it just shouldn't have been the main focus. And the main plot is just, it looks like someone's going after the president. Sam's first big challenge as Captain America is to save the president of the United States. especially after everything he's been through after the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, where people weren't accepting him as Captain America, and now he has to save the president, who ultimately turns into the Red Hulk. And that way, we can also focus on Sam Wilson's Captain America with Joaquin Torres a lot more, where Joaquin Torres is starting to feel into that Falcon role, and we could push more of that story of them bonding together, becoming partners, and being that kind of duo when it comes to them being heroes. Plus, we could even get more Red Hulk buildup with more scenes about what was going on. Instead of showing the leader, it could be as if someone was going after them, seeming like someone has been injecting Ross with something, or that we get flashbacks to him going through those experiments that the leader was doing on him that he just doesn't fully remember. And that's where we kind of get more into the fact that even though the leader saved his life, the leader was turning him into the Red Hulk, just like we saw in the movie. And like I said at the beginning, get rid of the Red Hulk in the entire marketing. Maybe tease it, show him getting angrier and angrier, but don't show the transformation. Because we have seen Ross in the MCU for years now, and he's never turned into the Red Hulk. We've all suspected it, we've all kind of wanted it, but we've never seen him turn. So instead, we could focus on that buildup, not put it in the marketing, because by putting in the marketing, that gets rid of literally the entire movie's big reveal, because they built it up like it was supposed to be this big shock. So if you never saw the trailer or somehow see the posters, boom, it is a big shock. But the way Marvel marketed this, they ruined that huge reveal, which I think is also what tarnished some of the reviews, because of the fact that you knew what was coming. That was the big mystery, and then it just wasn't a mystery anymore. And honestly, maybe the Serpent Society and the leader, they could have maybe foreshadowed another organization, maybe a Hydra coming back. And I've seen people talk about how this is just like the Winter Soldier movies, a secret underground base, a secret organization controlling the government, double agents in the government, which is same elements from that movie put into this one. I didn't really like Winter Soldier, and I think those elements still worked here, even though they were kind of a copy and paste at some point. But the thing is too, that maybe it's not Hydra controlling everything. Make it look like maybe AIM is sneaking into the government, because we haven't really seen AIM in the MCU that much. Now, we did see AIM back in Iron Man 3 with Killian, and I mean with the Extremists, that all happened, which you could have AIM come back with a new leader. And I mean, in the comics, MODOK has been that leader, but we saw MODOK in Ant-Man 3, so we might have to scrap that part completely. But you could still tease those references, because in the comics, the leader and MODOK worked together to turn Ross into the Red Hulk. He was at his worst time in his life. Betty had died, Captain America had been assassinated, and everything was down and about for him, where he was getting an alcohol abuse problem, and these two villains pulled him in, turned him into the Red Hulk to go against the Hulk. Like, they manipulated him and changed him, and you could have added plot lines like that, and that's why he got turned into the Red Hulk. Maybe instead of the leader secretly doing it, the leader went to Ross, convinced him to turn into the Hulk, because they might need someone like that to face like another Thanos or something like that. He would do anything to help his country and the world, save it from these alien threats. But instead, it was actually the leader trying to change him into more of a monster, where the Ross just wanted like super soldier serum instead, but the leader turned him into a Hulk. So like, there's pieces like that where we could have turned this movie into one that was a little bit more coherent, connecting more to the major MCU, but also tying it back to some of the comic origins for some of these characters. And even when it came to the end of the film, where we had that big reveal that that Ross turned into the Red Hulk. They had the whole movie set up that Ross is trying to reconnect with Betty the entire time. He's trying to be a better man for her. So why did Sam talk him down? I understand that it's Sam's movie and it makes sense for him to do that, but honestly, it should have been Betty. It should have been Betty. She was able to calm down the Hulk in his own movie. We've seen the Hulk get calmed down by Natasha. So why didn't Betty come in to calm down her own father? We had literally right before the scene, him calling her to walk down the road with the cherry blossoms like they used to, and then the fight took place literally right there. It would have made so much sense for Betty to show up and calm her father down. And that would have made a very good part, because it's Betty calming down her father, having that heart-to-heart, for maybe forgiving him a bit, but recognizing the monster within. And I think that would have been like a very good moment to add into this if you are already going to include those characters, rather than having her show up at the very, very end of the movie talking to him in his prison cell. And instead, for the prison cell scene, have Bruce show up and talk to Ross. Like, we had this whole plot about Bruce getting mad at Jen, how people can't get a hold of his blood, because that could be tremendous. People could get turned into the Hulks. And then they kind of did that with Todd at the very end of the series. That kind of got scrapped after she broke through the MCU into the real world and then rewrote it. But the thing is, the whole beginning of that show was setting up that people cannot get a hold of the Hulk's blood, so that we can't have more gamma radiated people going around the world causing problems. So having Bruce show up at the very end to be like, what the hell, Ross? What is going on? That would be like a really, really big moment. And it would make a lot of sense for what was going on. You know, he didn't have to be in the movie until that end moment. It at least would have wrapped up some of that story when it came to the gamma-infused people, to the new Hulk being in the MCU, and it would have helped out a lot. I mean, honestly, they could have even had She-Hulk come in as his lawyer and it would have maybe possibly worked as well. Like, there are little pieces like that where we could have teased it for future projects. And, you know, not everything in the MCU needs to tease future projects. Don't get me wrong. I do like those little elements, though, because it feels more of a connected universe, especially when we don't completely forget about plot points that happened in other movies. And that's one of the things I've noticed from the newest phase, is that we tend to forget what happened in the other movies, completely forget it, and then just rewrite stuff because they're writing stuff at the literal same time as these other movies. And then so the directors and the writers aren't shared this information, so that when something comes out, there might be something in their movie that contradicts what's happened in that movie, and then they have to go and rework it afterwards. So even though I don't think that this movie was terrible at all, like, it's not the worst MCU movie, it has its problems, I think some of the standouts still are Sam Wilson as Captain America, Joaquin Torres as Falcon, and even Harrison Ford as the Red Hulk. Like, those are all really good characters with really good writing. It's just when it came to piecing this movie together, having some of those extra plot lines, that is where it kind of really fell through. And I think focusing too much on the giant celestial sticking out of the ground in adamantium was one of the major problems. Plus, on top of it, the leader design looked horrible. I mean, it was going to look horrible either way. It's ridiculous. He's a giant freaking head. But we have seen artwork come out from the show that has his giant head rather than this brain that's you could see on his skull. Like, that was disgusting. Give me the giant head. I want the giant head. It would look so stupid, but also perfect. Because as a comic book fan, I love seeing the comic book style stuff, even if it looks ridiculous. And I can agree, comic book stuff does not always translate well to live action media. I get it, but it would have worked perfect for what they were doing. And I think if they just dove a little bit deeper into that unrealistic stuff as we go into a literal fantasy world, it would help the MCU so much more than it has in the past, because we have gone so many years of these movies that I think that we should definitely be diving into the more weird, the more comic book accurate stuff, because it helps out a lot. And honestly, I feel like there's probably stuff I could still add to change this movie to make it a little bit more coherent, flow a little bit better, and work for the Captain America character as a whole. These were the major standouts for me. At least this is what I think could be reworked to have made this movie better. And I still think that when I go to rewatch this movie, I might enjoy it more now that I'm not taking notes, I'm not reviewing it, and I can just honestly and just enjoy the movie as is, as just a fun time. Because I did have fun while watching it. It just, when it came to some of the points, I just couldn't agree with the way they were doing things. I do love Sam Wilson as Captain America. I want to see more of it. I really liked his comic run, and I really like him in the MCU so far, and I can't wait to see him leading this new Avengers team when it eventually comes to pass, which I will be making another video on that and who might be on that team and who might not. Make sure you stay tuned for that. Don't forget to like and subscribe button. It'll help you stay up to date with all that. And if you guys want, I do have my full Captain America Brave New World full movie breakdown with post-credit scene, ending, and all that live right now. It'll be linked at the end of this video, so make sure you go check that out. So let me know, guys, what would you want to do to make this movie a little bit more coherent? What would you have liked to seen in it or replace during the film from what they did with a giant celestial, Red Hulk, Captain America? And honestly, another thing, they could have got rid of the Widow entirely. We didn't need that character in there. Honestly, I don't know why they really put her in there. I feel like they just wanted a Widow, just like how Captain America Winter Soldier had Black Widow in it. What other things would you like to change? Don't forget to like and subscribe button. It helps out the channel a lot, and you get to stay up to date with videos like this, because I'm going to try to do a little bit more rather than just normal breakdowns. I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later when it's time to break down another DC, Marvel, or anime project.